Hello, today we'll be discussing Elden Ring's cosmology and theology. I think this is a very useful video because people are usually confused by what the deities and the stars are within Elden Ring. Now, of course, theology and cosmology are this. Theos means deity or gods, and cosmo means the cosmos or the stars and the study of them. So we have to begin firstly by talking about the first form of divinity we see within the game, and that is the demigods. Now, how do you achieve the status of demigod, for example? Well, you have to be the direct offspring or have to be related to America to be a demigod, the bearer of the Elden Ring. It's a very specific status, and even Godric has it, even though he's a very, very distant relative. He's still referred to as a demigod. Also, it seems you can become a demigod. For example, Radon, Rykard, and Rani became demigods, aka candidates for a throne, after Radagon married Marika. Now, it seems that relation with the Elden Lord also gives you the status of of demigod, even though we know that Radagon shares the same body with Marika. It doesn't seem that the status of demigod is given to you because of power, because Radon would have been the same power regardless of him achieving demigod status or not. It seems demigod status comes from being literally familiarly related to Marika. For example, if you have children outside of having them with Marika, and then you marry Marika, your children automatically achieve the status of demigod, even though they may not be as powerful as, say, Marika's and Radagon's children, or Godfrey and Marika's children. Now that's cleared up, we need to talk about the most mysterious title bestowed upon any deity in the game, and that's God. It's very, very difficult, from what I've seen, to define what a god is in Elden Ring, because you don't have to be related to an outer god to be a god. That's the thing. Miquella was going to become a god. It's stated in the game that Miquella was going to become a god, even though he wasn't related to an outer god at all. I think God, from what we see, means a great mastery over something, and a great a great power. That's what God means, I think. Because, for example, the Fell God, which we'll discuss later on, is not stated to be related to an outer god at all. And he's yet stated to be a god itself. Well, now the first god we actually see in game is Marika, and Marika obviously has a mastery over life. We actually discussed this in our past videos. Go watch those if you want to be caught up. Marika has a great mastery over life and disdain for death, from what we see. Now we need to discuss the Fell God, because he's another a deity that has explicit title of God and not outer God, because the game is very specific in its wording. It seems the fell god actually had a form, so to say, and had a mastery over the Flame of Ruin. The Flame of Ruin doesn't seem to be related to any outer god. In fact, it seems to be related to Destined Death specifically, again, past video. This, I think, solidifies the idea that in Elden Ring, to be called God is to have great mastery over something. For example, Miquella was going to have a great mastery over unalloyed gold. The fell god had great mastery over fire. Marika has a great mastery over life, and so on and so forth. Now, we need to discuss the creme de la creme of all gods in the Elden Ring universe, and the Elden Beast is it. Now, to discuss the Elden Beast is to also discuss the Elden Ring, the Erdtree, and the Crucible. So I'll keep it short because my past videos cover a lot of what's mysterious about the Elden Beast. But in short, the Elden Beast has the ability to control fate. Now, how it does this is by controlling the stars, because there's multiple item descriptions that say that the stars guide fate. If the Elden Ring, aka the Elden Beast, controls fate, and its alteration changes fate, that means that the Elden Beast controls stars because the stars guide fate. Makes sense. This is also supported by cut dialogue. I know this is not a very canon option, but there's more evidence supporting that the Elden Ring controls the stars. It says the Elden Beast is the arbiter of fate and the monarch of the very stars above. We also see in the first trailer we see about Elden Ring says the thing that controlled the very stars has been shattered. So that's two references that say that the Elden Ring controls fate and the stars. Another thing is that Miyazaki, in an interview, said that the Elden Ring's rings contain the laws of this world, and together the Elden Ring and the Elden Beast represent every single law in the world and the governation of fate itself. Now, inevitably this brings us to the stars. So what are stars in Elden Ring? Well, it seems that stars are sentient beings that get born and die, and so on and so forth. They seem to guide fate, depending on the Elden Ring. Now, that is easily discussed, but we need to talk about the moon. Now, why I didn't elaborate on the stars is because stars aren't as interesting to discuss because there's not a lot of direct information about stars. We only know that they produce glintstone, and so that's about it. But the moon is a very interesting thing. The moon seems to have the same power as the Elden Ring to control fate. Because when we fight Renala, Renala says when we die to us that our fate lieth under her moon. So this means that the moon is somehow related to fate, and that your fate is under her moon. Well, this means that her moon controls fate, and you guessed it, the stars guide fate. So the moon may have the ability to control stars, and in the Age of Stars ending, this is maybe what's going on. The Elden Ring and Marika disappear, and in place of the Elden Ring, aka the Elden Beast and Marika, the moon appears, and it says the fate will be governed under the wisdom of the moon. Well, Ronnie says it, while Marika and the Elden Ring just disappear. Maybe the Elden Beast is returned to its original place. Maybe it's destroyed. It's vague. It's ambiguous. We don't know. But I will discuss this later on in the video. Keep tuned. So you just keep tuned. We have to talk about the big bads of the Elden Ring universe, and those are our gods. But before we get into it, I want to talk about a very, very common consensus that we have reached for some reason in the Elden Ring community, and we equate outer gods to Lovecraft's outer gods and Lovecraft's entities, and I don't know why. They're called Eldritch. Eldritch means incomprehensible for us. That's what it means. So when Eldritch being does something, you can't comprehend it. You literally can't comprehend what they're doing. So you go insane, like Cthulhu over here, a big beautiful lad. But the thing is, the outer gods are, and their motives are extremely understandable. In fact, they're very simple. The outer gods are extremely simple-minded. They don't have much cognitive processes. And I don't know how we got here. Maybe it's because of the name Outer God, because there's outer gods in Lovecraft stories. But the reason they're called outer gods is because they're outside of physicality. They're outside of being touched and so on and so forth. That's the reason why they're called outer gods, not because they're inspired by Lovecraft. And I'll explain why. Firstly, I will need to explain the most enigmatic outer god. In my past video, I said that the twin birds may be the envoy of the greater will, just like the Elden Beast is. But I take this back because I've changed my mind about the greater will and its status. And this shield clearly states that the twin birds are from an outer god. But this may support my theory about what outer gods actually may be. And no, they're not incomprehensible, and I think I have a pretty good understanding of what they are and how they came to be. For example, the twin birds who gave birth to the death birds. Now, we need to look at, for example, first Raya Lucaria, and it's sealed. You can see there's two birds on the side of a star. The Raya Lucarians seem to worship the stars and study them, and as well, and have a Church of Kuko, which is an actual site of grace location within the game. The Kuko is a bird, and the Church of Kuko suggests that they worship a bird of some sort, which may be the twin bird. And this is maybe why we find the twin bird shield and a lot of death birds in Raya Lucaria in particular. But the thing that confused me at first about these twin birds is this. When you cast in the ancient sorcery of the death birds, which presumably also came from the twin birds, of course, a hallow wheel, the part of the rune of death appears, which was originally plucked from the Golden Order. This is a very confusing concept because you have to ask if the twin birds come from an outer god, then how are they actually related to the greater will and the Elden Ring? And how are they related to the Rune of Death? Well, I will say later on, but firstly, I want to establish this very, very essential process to understanding the outer gods. The outer gods are related to the Elden Ring, the Erd Tree, and the greater will to some extent. In every single case, they're related to something that comes from the Elden Ring, the greater will, or the Erd Tree. And this is just one example. The twin birds and the death birds are from an outer god, yet they somehow use this the power from this rune, which was originally plucked from the Elden Ring. As you see, the Golden Order was created by confining death and death. This new order will be one of death restored. As you see, these two things are identical, it only depicts half of the Rune of Death, but I also discussed why it depicts only half in a past video. But I want you to know this very essential process to understanding the outer gods. They're related. They're not unrelated to the greater will and the Elden Ring and the Erd Tree. Now, we need to talk about the Scorpion Stinger and how they may be related to the Erd Tree and the Elden Ring. The outer god of Rot represents a cycle of death and the corrupted cycle of death and rebirth. Death is no longer, right? So nothing can truly die, so things stagnate. And this is what Scarlet Rot is. For example, we see this in Millicent's case. In the bloom, in the heart of Aeonia, we see many flowers on top of a tree-like formation. And it seems that Millicent is related to Melania, but Melania couldn't have just given birth to her, or we don't. And there's many sisters she has, and we see no actual relation coming from Marika or any other extended family. And Gauri repeatedly calls her a bud, meaning she may have actually come from a bud. And that's why she then further flowers after we betray her into a scarlet flower. Now, why this is interesting is because of the Erd Tree's cycle of death and rebirth, which is broken. Because, firstly, the Erd Tree lost its vital energies and sap, which was used to rebirth and birth a lot of the followers of the Erd Tree. The Tarnished Archaeologist has a very good video on this, and the Scarlet Rot seems to be the offshoot of this process because it's corrupted it appears in another form. Just like death is no longer, it appears in the form of the death birds. Now, we need to continue to the formless mother and what the formless mother may be an offshoot of, and that is the blood. That is blood. Now, what is blood related to? It's related to the blood of the omen, and it seems to have a relation to the formless mother. Now, this relation to the formless mother may be because the formless mother is interested in powerful blood, but I think the formless mother took form, or is an offshoot of because the Golden Order rejects rejects omen and powerful blood. And since the Golden Order rejects blood, and also when Radagon became Lord, he banned in all kinds of blood sport during his reign, like gladiator battles. Normal blood flowed. And also the formless mother seems to be attracted to omen blood. This rejection of blood may have led to the formless mother actually taking form. Now, why am I saying the formless mother took form? Well, it seems that the outer god of frenzy took form, because the outer god of frenzy took form after it was severed after the three fingers was severed from the original fingers. I actually noticed this detail and I didn't point it out because I'm a big old dum-dum. In my past video, when we actually see the Glomite Queen being in an item description, it says she was chosen by the fingers. Very, very interesting detail. It doesn't say the Glomite Queen was chosen by the two fingers. It says the fingers. And in another item description, it says that Rani was chosen by the two fingers. And that is a very interesting detail indeed, because in the From Software games, wording is key to understanding a lot of lore. And it seems that the Frenzied Flame actually came with the removal of three fingers from the original two fingers, from the fingers, which left the two fingers that Marika desired. Why she desired this? Well, I'll talk about this in another video, analyzing Marika's actions, and hopefully I can clear a lot of confusion there up to. But here we see an explicit way that an outer god may have been born, created, right? So why should other outer gods be exception to this rule? And we know the outer god of frenzy is an outer god because the Mikola's needle interferes with the meddling of outer gods, and you can use it on the Flame of Frenzy and it works. So that confirms the Flame of Frenzy is an outer god. Now, the outer gods are simple-minded. They don't have a higher form of consciousness. It seems they're hell-bent on getting followers and spreading the affliction they are related to. The frenzy, the outer god of frenzy wants to spread madness / frenzy. The outer god of rot. The formless mother wants to spread bleeding blood, the cursed blood. So the outer gods, from what we see in the game, are an entirely negative force. Because we only see the outer gods of negative forces. There's no positive outer gods. Like, of death, of rot, of madness. And it seems that the outer gods seem to be the failures of the Golden Order embodied, or failures of the Order embodied, because the Deathbirds were around since before the America's Earth Tree. But again, I talked about this in another video. Now, I want to talk about the Greater Will. And I know a lot of people will have a problem with this, but I don't think the Greater Will is actually an outer god. The outer gods seem to be a distinct thing. The Greater Will is never referred to as an outer god. And it seems that the Greater Will is the source, or at least the orderer, of everything we see in Elden. Now, why do we think this? Is because Hayata communicates with the Three Fingers, and the Three Fingers gives her information on how things were made. Things were made from the One Great, but supposedly the Greater Will made a mistake. Now, people say this is unreliable, but I say, why? I ask why. I think the conclusion may be unreliable. Hayata says that the Greater Will made a mistake. That is debatable, right? It's not confirmed, but why does the part where the Greater Will orders the One Great have to be wrong? So I think the Greater Will may be the orderer of chaos, or the creator deity that we see in game. And this actually is something that it shares with, this is an idea that Elden Ring may share with alchemy. It's that God, the Supreme One, existed along with prima materia, and prima materia is the source of all things. And then the prima materia actually diversifies into many elements and many different things. And in alchemy, only in mixing and combining all of the things that came from prima materia can you actually make prima materia, which is the ultimate goal of alchemy. So it's a very, very clear parallel to the One Great. Hayata says that from the One Great, Greater Will made a mistake, and for it came births, souls, and like all of the different things that include creation. Now, I promised you we would talk about something related to the moon. And this is why I wanted to talk about this particular thing later on in the video. Because it seems the Greater Will sent the Elden Beast to establish life and to be the orderer of the stars, so it can govern fate, and then those who contain, in a sense, the Elden Beast and the Elden Ring can change the order and maintain it. The Elden Beast and the Elden Ring can change the order and maintain it. So that's what the Elden Beast does. But we also see that Renala mentions that the moon is related to fate, and the fate lieth under the moon. I think Ranni's whole quest line isn't a rebellion against the greater will. Again, there's so many posts, videos on YouTube and Reddit that say that Ranni's whole rebellion is against other gods. I don't know where they got this from. From what we see in game and from what we see about the other gods' nature, she doesn't seem to be related to them at all. But she seems to be against the Elden Beast. Here's why. I think this is a story of the moon, which is another chief, maybe a chief among stars, like the Elden Beast is, because Godfrey actually refers to the Elden Ring as monarch among the stars, and a lot of promotional material says that it controls the stars, and Miyazaki says it contains the laws of the world. So the moon, which is another celestial entity, just like the Elden Beast was, because the Elden Beast was a star, we must not forget. The Elden Beast was a star, and it came in the form of a beast after it fell down. This means that the moon wants to assume the Elden Ring, the Elden Beast, and the Elden Ring's position in defining the laws of the world. Now, again, I showed you evidence for this in this video already, but if you think about it, I think this is what the story of the moon and of Ranni is. But I'll actually make a separate video for this about the moon and Ranni. I won't expand on it too much. I just want this thing to be fresh in your minds. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is my thoughts. This is from also, I think this is pretty solid in terms of in-game evidence. If you have any questions,